San Diego County could be on track to hit an even less restrictive reopening tier in the coming weeks. The big changes that would come with moving to the orange tier.
The former superintendent of San Diego Unified goes before Congress for a confirmation hearing. How Cindy Martin made her case to be the next Deputy Secretary of Education.
There are calls to change the seal of the city of San Diego, why some say it is time for the current design to go.
ABC 10 News at 6 starts now.
It's only been 1 week since San Diego County's businesses reopened for indoor service, and county leaders say we are inching closer to even fewer restrictions. Good evening, I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Making the jump to the orange tier, that would impact nearly every business in our county. Our ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl is going in depth on how soon we could get there.
A lot would change if San Diego can move from the red to the orange tier, especially for kids. Bowling alleys, escape rooms, laser tag, bounce centers, ball pits, and other indoor family entertainment centers could all open for the first time. And a long list of other businesses could expand their indoor capacity, like restaurants and retail.
The possibility of descending into the orange tier ought to be extra motivation for each and every one of us to continue to do our part to help avoid the spread.
Across the state, 9 counties are now in the orange tier. Most recently, San Francisco, Marin, and Santa Clara. Under state guidelines, the soonest San Diego could join them and reopen businesses is Wednesday, April 7th. But that's the best case scenario.
I think that your assessment is right, that it would be possible that on that date we could descend into the orange tier. I wouldn't want to say at this point, is it probable?
Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says there are 3 potential paths for San Diego to reach orange. One is to improve our adjusted case rate. San Diego needs to get its case rate down from 5.5 cases per 100,000 residents to just under 4 cases or less. And that's a tall order.
And although we are descending, it is probably less likely we would get under 4 in the immediate future.
Another route involves the state's health equity metric. San Diego would have to see significantly lower positive test rates in the poorest and most at-risk neighborhoods. But Supervisor Fletcher thinks the most likely path to orange involves vaccinations. Once the state administers 4 million vaccines in the neediest neighborhoods, measured by the Healthy Places Index, the math changes.
And to go into the orange tier, you would need 2 consecutive weeks with a case rate of 5.9 or less. As we stand here this week, our case rate is 5.5.
So as long as San Diego can keep case rates flat, reaching orange will come down to rolling up enough sleeves in high-risk neighborhoods. So far, the state has administered 2.9 million out of the required 4 million doses. Derek Stahl, ABC 10 News.
The state will announce new numbers next Tuesday that will reveal whether San Diego is on track to move into the orange tier on April 7th. Meantime, the county says another concerning variant has been found locally, this one from Brazil. It is believed to be highly contagious and can reinfect people who have already recovered from COVID. Vaccines may also have reduced effectiveness against the Brazilian variant. Despite that, county leaders said today that does not change their course.
The message of the vaccine is that you should get it when it's your turn. That message has not changed. And again, this is important for scientists to look into as the time goes by, to see if there might be a need way down the road for a booster, for example, that might cover new variants. But the take-home message right now is you don't need to do anything different. Just practice the same precautions and get the vaccine when it's your turn.
The county says next week's vaccine shipment will be 10% higher than this week's.
In a hopeful sign, the county's 14-day rolling average for positive cases dropped a little more this week. Right now, it's just above 2.5%. And there were about 250 new cases reported locally today. There have been more than 268,000 cases in the county since the pandemic began. Sadly, more than 3,500 San Diegans have lost their lives to the virus. The county reported 11 more deaths today. A San Diego school district is in the national spotlight for getting its students back into the classroom safely. Teachers from Cajon Valley took part in a summit today, hosted by the Department of Education. The event was designed to gain insight on how schools across the country are getting kids back into the classroom. The Cajon Valley district has been pioneering what learning looks like during the pandemic, often reopening when other districts were closed.
We're bringing back our electives. We can now have band outside. We went to a block schedule at middle school, and our teachers rotate instead of our students.
With 27 schools, there are 11,000 Cajon Valley students doing some form of in-person learning. District leaders say they've only had one case of COVID-19 passed on campus. And while in-person classes will resume 5 days a week in April, families do still have the option to continue virtual learning from home.
Right now, the Fleet Science Center is hosting a town hall to answer questions about the COVID vaccines. It is a free and virtual event with a panel presentation and a live Q&A session. And those panelists include scientists involved in the vaccine approval process and other researchers. It's scheduled to run until 7:30 tonight. You can also find comprehensive information on COVID vaccines on our website at 10news.com. You can find local vaccination sites, sign up to volunteer, and find frequently asked questions under the coronavirus tab.
San Diego leadership goes to Washington. Today, San Diego Unified Superintendent Cindy Martin faced hours of questioning by lawmakers regarding her nomination to serve as Deputy Secretary of Education. ABC 10 News reporter Adam Rakusin explains that Martin told senators she understands this is a critical time for education.
I've dedicated my life.
2 hours in the hot seat, San Diego Unified School District Superintendent Cindy Martin explaining to lawmakers why she should be confirmed as the next U.S. Deputy Secretary of Education.
If I'm honored enough to be confirmed, I will work to use my experiences in San Diego to help support efforts across the country to reopen schools safely and bring children back to the classrooms.
Martin received praise from some on the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions.
Superintendent Martin knows firsthand the issues communities are struggling with when it comes to serving all students equitably and safely reopening schools for in-person learning.
But also criticism on her record while at the helm of San Diego's largest school district.
In fact, your district's been sued for denying students with accommodations reimbursements they are entitled to receive under their individual education plans or IEPs.
And for how she answered some lawmakers' questions.
That sounds a little bit like a rehearsed answer. In fact, it sounds entirely like you were prepped for that. I guess what I want is the unprepped answer.
Senators grilled Martin on topics ranging from school choice to learning loss, achievement gaps, how federal funds should be spent, and when kids will be back in the classroom.
So I'm wondering why it is we still have schools closed in your district and around the country.
Martin pointed to San Diego Unified's planned return to the classroom next month.
This has been a tremendous challenge, as you know, and I know across the country people are grappling with the same issues that we grapple with in San Diego to make our path forward for reopening.
Adam Rakusin, ABC 10 News.
The committee chair says she plans to hold a vote on Martin's nomination as soon as possible.
The suspected gunman in the Boulder, Colorado shooting is set to make his first court appearance tomorrow. There are still questions about why he allegedly opened fire inside that grocery store, killing 10 people. Tonight, the community there continues to mourn the lives lost, and there are also renewed calls for new gun safety laws. President Biden helped pass a temporary assault weapon ban in the 90s while he was a senator and continues to support gun safety measures. Many Republicans say they don't think stricter gun laws will work.
San Diego County leaders say they're taking action to denounce hate directed at the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. Supervisors say they plan to introduce a resolution and a policy in the coming weeks. Advocates call it a great first step, but they believe more needs to be done from within and without the Asian American community.
What we need now is really for the community not just to take a stand today, but to think about, in the weeks, the months, and the years ahead, how do we actually work together to combat this on a daily basis? In order for us to combat what we're seeing, I think it requires that as a community, we're willing to speak up and speak out and share our stories. And even if that is not perhaps what we've been taught.
Nathan Fletcher and Nora Vargas will create this policy. It's expected to go before the board for an entire vote April 6th.